Hello everyone, Mehdi for Tokyo Alpha Mind. So today we are going to review the Q2 2025's earnings for Google. And I'm sure that many of you have already seen the figure and the result elsewhere. But today we're going to deep dive into the figures and the narratives. And let's see if Google is still the number one AI play in the market. So let's get started. So in terms of top line, so Google grew revenue by 14%. And on the bottom line, so we saw like EPS growing by 22%, which is actually great for this quarter. And it really shows that Google is still growing double digit. And what we're going to see as well is that on their main business lines, they are also growing double digits. And to cut it short, the earnings were very good. They were great earnings, beating on the top and the bottom line. And so that was a really great quarter from Google. The first segment we want to see together today is basically search, Google search. So a lot of people are worried about the evolution and the growth of Google search because it might be disrupted by tools like OpenAI, ChatGPT. But what we have seen in these earnings is that Google search is still growing. So we've seen the result plus 12% year on year for Google search, which is actually incredible and which shows that Google search is actually resilient in the face of competitors like ChatGPT. So this narrative saying that Google is going to be disrupted entirely by other tools and that Google search is going to die very soon and very abruptly is actually kind of a false narrative, because what we have seen in those earnings is that first, in terms of revenue, Google search is still generating quite a significant amount of revenue for Google and profit as well. And we are still seeing some double-digit growth. And all of that led by the new AI overview that actually Google is deploying in many countries. And kind of a tidbits, we've seen that AI overview actually increased the number of searches made by people. And another very interesting fact is that young people, so like 16 to 24, they like these AI overviews. They like to have the answer summarized for them when they search something. And what we are seeing is that just more and more people are actually using Google search and are doing more and more research trying to find information. So definitely, what we are seeing is that Google search is not dying abruptly. It will continue to be there for years and years and still be kind of a profit center for Google. Then let's talk about AI more specifically. We have seen that AI overviews in AI mode are actually great boosters for Google search. But let's focus a little bit on Gemini and like AI in general for Google. So what we've seen is that Google is becoming one AI giant. And one figure that is actually showing that is the number of tokens processed by Google. And so today we've seen that in May, Google has processed almost like 1,000 trillion, so which is 1 quadrillion tokens in terms of AI. And the Gemini product is actually becoming very well liked by the market, very well liked by the people. And what we are seeing is that more than 450 million users, active monthly users of the product Gemini, are using Google's AI. And this is not going to stop there, because we are seeing that Google, with this Gemini product, is becoming kind of a competitor of ChatGPT and Claude, for example. And so Google is showing here like really their dominance and their skills in terms of AI, and this will definitely continue going forward. Now let's deep dive a little bit into YouTube. So YouTube is one of the jewels in all the business lines for Google. And what we have seen is that YouTube with YouTube ads has grown more than 13% in this quarter on a year-on-year basis. And YouTube is actually becoming one of the key media for a lot of people in the world, and especially in the US. And so YouTube, either like on the long form or on the short form, is becoming really a powerhouse in terms of media, replacing TV and competing with all the social media like Instagram or your TikTok. And so what we've seen in this quarter is that we have more than 200 million YouTube shorts displayed by Google and YouTube. And in terms of replacing TV, YouTube is actually the number one media in the world. So really competing directly with Netflix and the old TV, I would say. So YouTube is actually a huge business for Google, and I think that is going to continue. They are going to continue to integrate AI features within Google and within YouTube, and that is going to empower a lot more creators, a lot more content creators to actually make this type of videos that we are doing today. And you will see more and more people watching and more people creating on YouTube. So definitely a win-win for a lot of different people. And the platform is going to continue to grow with all this activity and all this content creation. And it's very difficult for other platforms to actually compete with YouTube, given the processing power that they have and the empowerment of the content creators and the opportunity that they give to all these people to actually make a living and produce more and more content that are very relatable for a lot of different people in the world. So as YouTube become the new #1 media in the world, you're gonna see like YouTube growth continue more and more, especially with AI products from Google, like VO3 or like all the Gemini products coming, transforming images to video. And so this is really going to help a lot of content creators. And what we can see is that there is a huge ecosystem and a lot of synergies between all the different Google products. So we are going to see definitely a huge growth in YouTube, but which is going to come with a lot of growth with the Gemini product as well. So now on Google Cloud. So Google Cloud, and we have said that before, Google Cloud is the #1 cloud platform for AI startups. And it has been said in the earnings call, but this is kind of true, that most of new AI startups today are choosing Google Cloud, especially for like the capacity of Google to provide TPUs and offer this compute that is very hard to actually obtain for a lot of startups, given that NVIDIA's chips are kind of in ration from all the different hyperscalers. So Google Cloud is actually #1 for all these different AI startups, and also for a lot of different companies that are choosing Google because the cloud and the services are much easier to use than from Azure or from AWS, for example. And so we have seen like a lot of growth in Google Cloud. And lately we have also seen like this mega deal signed by ServiceNow with Google Cloud for $1.2 billion. And we have also seen that OpenAI is using Google Cloud for the TPUs as well. So definitely a huge and a lot of wins for Google Cloud in this quarter. And this is definitely going to continue to go forward. So Google Cloud has actually posted like a plus 32% growth year on year in this quarter. And what is even more incredible is that Google Cloud actually includes a lot of different services, and the the Google Cloud Platform, so GCP, is actually most likely growing much faster than this plus 32%. And if we compare that to others like Azure or AWS, definitely Google Cloud Platform is one of the fastest grower in terms of hyperscalers. So definitely a huge win here as well for Google. And another point in terms of Google Cloud Platform is that we have seen that the backlog for Google Cloud is actually huge, growing at plus 38%, I think at almost like $109 billion. So definitely we can estimate that the Google Cloud is still going to continue to grow at 30–40% going forward, and this will actually become one of the main business lines for Google. And we can also imagine that in the next 5 or 10 years that is going to become the main cloud provider, being that it is the #1 AI cloud provider for most AI startups today. So definitely one of the best business engine for Google with Google Cloud. Another business line not to be neglected is Google subscriptions. So Google subscription is also growing double digit at plus 20% year-on-year basis. And this is, I think, one of the best best Google business line, because these are recurrent revenues and this is a proven business model. And what we are seeing is that Google is actually trying to transfer part of their business from ads into user subscription, which is going to give them like a lot of recurring revenues going forward. And the growth of this business line with YouTube Premium, for example, YouTube Music, YouTube TV, for example, or like Google Workspace, showing that users, they are loving the Google products and they are ready to pay for actually these services on a monthly basis. So this is definitely a great plus for Google. And we have seen with Apple that this is going to actually become a huge part of the revenue growth going forward. And for Google, it will be the very same. And so what we are seeing is that the business model of Google is shifting a little bit towards more YouTube, towards more subscription, and toward more cloud. And so this shows that Google search is still growing double digits, but even if it's going to die in the coming years, it does not really matter because Google has such engines actually firing into in terms of growth that they are going to be fine anyway. Okay, so let's talk now about Capex. So what we've seen in this latest earnings is that Google has increased their guidance for 2025 Capex from $75 billion to $85 billion, which is an increase of $10 billion just for 1 year. And so what we are seeing is that Google is definitely capacity constraints as of today, and they're definitely working to try to grow their business with more and more investment, especially in terms of AI infrastructure. And so this shows like the huge demand that we are seeing for Google features and Google capacities. And actually, this will actually position Google as one of the only company in the world to be able to provide AI at scale. So that's very, very important. A lot of investors are seeing that as a negative because the ROI on this new Capex is actually uncertain. But what we are seeing is that all the business lines for Google are benefiting from these new AI features and the required compute. So definitely, what I think personally is that this investment is going to benefit all the business lines, all the products, and even Google Cloud for the businesses. And so what they are doing is actually not lost, and the ROI might not actually directly transfer into direct revenue for Google Cloud, but for all the products of the Google lines, for consumers, but also for businesses. So it will be very hard to actually see it concretely in the figures, but definitely it will be transparent in a few years when Google is going to be the only company to actually be able to scale AI for billions of users. And now let's talk about buyback, because what we've seen in this latest earning is that buyback on a year-to-year basis has actually decreased the share outstanding by around 2%. So additionally to the dividend of Google of 0.5%, so what we have is a shareholder return of around 2.5%, which is actually not great, but which is actually okay and good, and it's always good to take. But definitely Google has one side of their free cash flow dedicated to invest more in terms of Capex. And what we are seeing is that they're dedicated the other part to buying back more shares, given that the stock today is quite fairly valued, but was very undervalued a few months ago. So definitely today, Google as a stock is providing a lot of value for shareholders, and we are going to continue to see a lot of growth going forward in terms of earnings, but also in terms of share buybacks. So definitely, this is a very good setup for all Google shareholders. So given all these explanations about the great earnings and a great quarter for Google, so how is the market responding? So what we've seen is kind of a muted response from the market, with Google actually not being up at all on this very good quarter. And actually, like for shareholders, this might be a bit frustrating, but you just need to wait because the growth in terms of revenue and the growth in terms of EPS is going to compound in the next few years. And definitely what we can expect is to see a much higher share price for Google, as EPS is going to grow definitely by double digits in the next 5 years. So we can definitely expect that in the next 5 years, we will see actually a double in terms of share price. This is not something which is out of the realm of the possibilities, and we can definitely expect a double in terms of EPS in the next 5 years, given that today is growing at plus 20% or plus 22% to be more precise, and is going to continue with the share buybacks and the growth of the business. So definitely one of the best opportunity in the market today with Google. Okay, so you have it. This was the earnings of Q2 2025 for Google. And what we have seen is that Google is growing in all cylinders on their core businesses, with double-digit growth for search, for YouTube, for cloud. And we are seeing that Google is becoming a leader in terms of AI, with all these Gemini products and all this research transpiring into all their products. So definitely a great earning for Google. And we are going to see in the future that Google is becoming one of the best opportunities in the market at the moment. So if you're still interested in other analysis like this, so feel free to check my other video on this channel. Please subscribe and I see you in another one. Bye.